you're not a self-improvement project, dude. Like, that's just the end of it. I think a lot of people need to hear that.
Yeah. James, welcome to the show.
Grateful to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
So, you're a coach. What exact type of coach are
I
you?
would say a performance coach. A lot of what I do is help, like I say in my bio, is like I help people get unstuck. A lot of procrastination, perfectionism, fears, a lot of stuff that gets in the way from us taking action on the things that we need to take action on to achieve our goals. I help people really overcome a lot of those blocks.
Why do you think those blocks are so prevalent today?
I mean, I think there's multiple reasons for that realistically. I mean, biologically, our brain and our body and everything in that regard, it's just neurologically we're trying to keep us stuck in a pattern even if it's not in our best interest. So like a lot of us will stay and doing the same thing. You probably heard Albert Einstein say is like, doing the same thing and expecting a new result is simply insanity, right? It's like a lot of us get caught in that. But we don't understand why we're getting caught in that. So a lot of it's biological, to be completely honest. And then there's a lot of comparison, a lot of other stuff that comes into it as well.
Right. And I mean, our brains are essentially wired for comfortability. And, in today's world, the only way to succeed and go your own way is to step a little bit outside of your comfort zone. And, if you don't step out of your comfort zone, then, years are going to pass and you're going to look back at your life and you're going to be like, what happened? Because you never did what you truly wanted to do. I think a huge issue we have is kind of living our lives based on what other people want for us and not what we want for ourselves.
Yeah, I think a lot of us don't put into perspective enough the cost of inaction, right? Like we're all afraid of what other people think of us. We're all afraid of what happens if we fail. We're all afraid of like the worst possible outcome. But we never put into perspective the worst possible outcome is probably the present that you're experiencing because you're not taking action on the thing that you actually want to do. It's like you said, it's like we're going to get 3 years down the road and we're going to be in the same place, and that's a lot more scary than being in a different place and failing maybe. You know what I mean?
I was thinking about it the other day with myself about starting my YouTube channel, starting my podcast. And, it doesn't go for just something like that. It goes for, whatever anybody wants to do with their life, this certain thing that they've been putting off. And, I was thinking, for a few years, I had the idea in my mind of, oh, maybe I'll start a podcast. But point is, it took me 3 years to actually start it. And
Yeah.
so, I look back and I'm like, oh, I wish I started it 3 years ago. I could have been so much farther along. But
Yep.
I also have to be grateful that I started it at all because I could still be sitting here right now thinking to myself, oh, I want to start a podcast and I haven't started it yet.
I know when I started my podcast, I wanted to have interviews. And at the time, I didn't have Ethernet in my room, so they'd crash. And so I couldn't do it. And I thought, well, I still want to start a podcast. And the person I looked up to most was my coach at the time. And all he did was solo episodes. And this dude had one of the biggest podcasts in the world. It's like literally 0.001% in the world, right? And so he's only done solo pretty much. And I'm like, I just start solo. I'm like, what if I just like start? Like, I know that I want to do it. And if I don't start now, I'm like you said, it's like gets to the point where, man, I should have done this before. And so I started in my car with no microphone, with no guests and 20-degree weather. And now I doing interviews with authors that I looked up through my whole entire life. So it's like you have to start. You just have to start.
That's the thing is when there's an inconvenience, it's so much easier and so much more tempting to just make that excuse and be like, oh, I don't have internet. Oh, I guess I just can't do it now. I'm going to give up. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait till one day I have it. And that one day, maybe a year from now. And it really comes down to the little things. It's not even these, I'm going to make this huge decision that's going to affect the rest of my life. It's these small decisions that ultimately kind of form your life and your lifestyle.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think I don't remember what it was. I want to say it's 10 episodes or something, but like the average podcaster doesn't get past like 10 episodes or so, I want to say. And if you get past like 50 episodes, you're already in like the top 1% of people, which is like mind blowing to think about. It's like if I just show up and just do the thing that I'm supposed to do, I will succeed. Who would have thought? Like if I just did what I was supposed to do every single day, I said this on a podcast I was on before this. Focus on your intention, not your expectation. We all want to be in this ideal position we want to be in. But when we focus on that, it discourages us because we're not there. We're not in our ideal position. You're never going to be where you want to be if you're always projecting where you want to be. If you're actually present where you are, then you'll start to realize that everything you're looking for is there. But like we have to get started. We have to just start. We have to just get going. Because a lot of the time it's just the fear of getting started that holds us back for the most part.
Right, and heard a bunch of people say it is like it's not that difficult. I don't want to word it in being better than other people, but it's not difficult nowadays to essentially outwork your competition because
Yeah.
there isn't that much competition. Like you said, for example, in terms of the podcast, fantastic. It's like most people don't get past 10 episodes. It's like, well, I've gotten past 10 episodes, so I guess I'm doing all right, right?
Yeah.
And so, and then, but to your point, it literally is just getting started. That's essentially it all it is. Because, I mean, going back to what I said before, when we don't get started, and it's the short term pleasures in the present moment that we distract ourselves from actually doing that thing, where those short term pleasures then lead to long term regret. Because we look back at our lives, like I said before, and we ask ourselves, what happened? And it's the least detrimental case is looking back on New Year's and be like, oh, I didn't really do anything this year, right? But the worst case scenario is you getting to your 65 and you're retired, and then you look back at your life and you're like, well, what did I do? And
Yeah.
that's I can't imagine what that feels.
Even if you make it, like my grandfather passed a couple months before he was able to retire. Like worked his entire life, didn't get to experience his retirement. And so like, what are we putting it off for? My father and uncle both passed away at 37. And so like I have such like a mindset like, dude, like what's the cost of inaction here? Like, would I regret not doing this or would I regret doing it and failing? I'm probably gonna regret not doing it more. Right. And that's for most of us, but we're always projecting this idea of what we think other people think of us that keeps us not doing anything. But it's like, dude, if you live by what other people want for you or what you think other people want for you, you're not really living your life at the end of the day.
I think that idea of death coming at essentially any moment is something we just try to forget about in our daily lives. We try to forget that we're going to die one day and just, live our life. But I think sometimes it's important to keep in mind that I'm going to die one day so that you know that your time is limited. The cost of inaction is going to be your sanity, essentially.
I don't think we're urgent enough about what we want. And so we put it off till tomorrow. Like, yeah, like, sure, I just want to show up for the thing that I said I needed to show up for today. I'll just do tomorrow or something like that. And then tomorrow becomes the next day, next week, next month, next year, next lifetime at the end of the day, really. And we don't get another one.
Right, exactly. What do you think the real key foundations for a great life are?
I think it's defined by what each person wants. So I think it's like getting clear on what you want specifically. Like I think one thing that we fail to do is get clear on what we want, right? We're all living by what we think other people want. Like whether it's a mansion or a house or a car or whatever that looks like. It really just doesn't matter. But it's defined on, have you defined what success looks like? Have you defined on what a good life looks like for you? Is it working all hours of the day and making the most money in the world? Or is it working a few hours a day and having the freedom to do whatever you want, whenever you want, with whoever you want? I think it really just comes down to getting clear on what you want specifically, because I can't tell you.
That's a really good insight. Because you're right. And success, like you just said, society's paradigm, society's idea of success that they want us to believe is,
Mhm.
we need the nice car. We need the big house, right? And some people could be happy with that, right? If they just have that. But that's success. But if I try to become a millionaire and along the way I let go of all my friends and never talk to any girls, I'm never in a relationship, and it's like I have a $10 million home now and I'm successful, but I'm completely alone. Is that really success?
Yeah, I think like we just have to get more clear on what we want, and we're just living by what other people want for us, and so we're never going to get there. And I think a lot of people think happiness is a place, not an emotion. It's like you're not going to get to where you want to be if you're always projecting this ideal place. I literally said this on the last podcast I was on. Is like we get so caught up in this ideal position that we want to be, projecting our happiness and our like the best life that we can live in a future position, but we're never actually going to experience joy and happiness and fulfillment and purpose if we don't give ourselves the permission to be where we are. Like we get you want to be somewhere further along. We all want to be in a better position, of course. It's the whole purpose of life is to get better, is to enjoy, is to grind, to just level up in life essentially. But like if you don't give yourself the permission to be where you are, then what's the whole purpose of it all? Like to put off your existence for tomorrow?
And I think another thing is just to go along with your point is to accept where you are now. Like accept that you might not be in the best mental state now. You might not be in the best physical health. But I mean that's the first step, is to accepting it. Because if you're gonna sit there and not be happy with your life, but tell yourself, I'm fine. I don't need to go to the gym today. I don't need to try and read and make my improve my relationships and my social skills, then how can you get anywhere? And it's like days are going to pass, years are going to pass, and you're going to be in the same place. Where if you took those little actions today of, all right, I'm going to get in the gym today, I'll read 10 pages today, I'll just, if you're really social anxious, just take the one step and just say hi to someone random today. And taking those little steps over time is going to essentially change your life. And I mean, that's what happened to me. I was depressed, I was on medication, right? Life was absolutely horrible. And these small steps are what made the huge changes in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have to get clear on who we want to become and not the things that we want. Like what kind of person do you want to be? What emotions do you want to experience? Not what things do you want to have. It's a whole different thing. It's like we be, do, and then we have. We become the kind of person, we do the things that person would do, and then we have the things that they have. You have to first focus on becoming the kind of person. Way too many of us are focused on what we want, not the kind of person that can actually achieve what we want.
I think what is really important to realize is we're always wishing, oh, why can't I have better relationships and better friendships? It's like, well, what type of person are you? It's like once your life is better, you are 100% going to start attracting those people that are on that frequency and are in that positive place as you. And, one thing I just thought about when you said, things we want, those physical things versus, being the person we want to be is like when we become that person and we're able to make relationships with people, your friendship, your romantic partner, that's a long lasting thing. But if you're working up to buy this item that's $500,000, you're gonna get it, and it might be really important to you. Let's say it's a watch. You put on the watch, and you're probably gonna wear it every day. It's like, all right, cool. It's a watch, and what does this really do for me, right? Those relationships impact your emotions throughout the day, the lifestyle you have, how great your days are. I just love what you said about that point of those physical things that you want versus becoming the person that you really want to be.
Yeah, the more I've gotten, like, dude, when I got this watch, I thought it was gonna be like so sick. It's great, but like if I didn't have it, my life would be the same. Like
Right.
we just have to get clear on, like I said, the person that we want to become, the feelings we want to feel, the things that we want to do instead of the things that we want to have, because that's not where happiness comes from. Happiness is a choice. Like I can choose to be happy that I got this. I can choose to be happy that I woke up today. Like it's just the same thing.
Those little perspective shifts. It's very easy to take absolutely everything for granted.
Yeah.
The fact that we woke up today, just acknowledging that somebody, not even somebody, a lot of people did not wake up today.
Over
And it's like,
150,000.
and that I didn't even know that number. That's a huge number.
About
And so,
151,000 people that die a day, and you woke up today and you're gonna tell me that because some inconvenience happened that the day can't be everything that it's supposed to be. We just place these expectations, bro. It's like we gotta let go. We gotta let go. Be where we are.
right. Why do you think so much of the negative thoughts outweigh the positive ones?
That's what our brain's designed to do. Like if you think of it like in hundreds, thousands of years ago, and we're sitting in front of a fire, right? And you hear some rufflings in the bush. You're gonna see it as a threat. You're gonna say, "Oh, there's probably something bad happening because I need to prepare myself for that." And so, for every negative thought that you have, you really need to combat it with three positive thoughts to even get any kind of positivity. We don't realize that our brains literally the number one objective is to solve problems. And so, if we perceive a problem, we are going to obsess over the problem until it's figured out. And then once that problem's figured out, then the next problem we have to focus on. It's a problem solving machine. So if we're always looking at the problems and we don't like truly be conscious of the things that are going good, we're never going to experience them. It's literally our brain's number one objective is to solve problems. So if we're not conscious enough of that, our life's going to be full of them.
Think one thing I think about is, we have all these concepts that we think about. Oh, I have to deal with this in a week from now. This event is coming up. If you take a step back and you sit here in the present moment, you look around, you just feel yourself in your body, in your presence. What issue is there right now? What problem is there to solve? There isn't one.
Hmm.
It's the lack of being present because it's whenever we get time to ourselves, whether we stop talking in a conversation or we just finish this, it's immediately pick up our phone. We need to occupy ourselves with something and stimulate ourselves. I think for so many of us, we just lost the ability to be. And I even saw problems with it. It's like I finished doing this and I'm sitting here and I'm like, if I'm not conscious in the moment, I'm like, all right, well, I'm kind of bored now. But it's like I don't think we should be getting bored that fast.
Yeah, I think when there's a lack of purpose, there's a presence of pleasure. Like we're always trying to seek pleasure if you feel like you're lacking purpose. So if you're lacking purpose, you're gonna go to the first thing that's gonna make you feel good, and that's dopamine. That's your phone. If we don't have like a long term goal or a long term vision or a long term, not even just a long term, but just like something that we feel like we're doing something, we have some kind of significance. We're gonna go towards the things that make us forget that we have to feel. You know what I mean?
Right. Why do you think so many of us just don't seem to have a purpose?
I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I think for some people it may be that they don't believe that they are worthy of having a purpose. They haven't tried enough things to figure out what that purpose is. I think your purpose is always changing as well. I think it's just like a constant evolution. Like life's always changing. Your purpose in life right now could be to be financial free. 20 years from now it could be serving other people through a time that you once were going through. I think it's always changing because we feel like finding your purpose is like this granular thing that we have to figure out. We place this massive expectation that we're supposed to figure it out, neglect the process of actually doing that.
I think that's a really good point about how we kind of view it as this grand purpose of this one thing that we need to just
Mhm.
achieve. I think a lot of the times, for some people, it might just be one singular thing.
Yeah.
But I think for a lot of people, people have passions in different areas. Like, I love doing podcasting, but I also love playing drums. I think that's a huge thing. is that we can have multiple purposes. We could have two purposes. We could have 10 purposes. Some of them might be bigger than others, and some of them might be smaller than others, but that doesn't take away the value from any of them.
I mean, I feel like that's a passion though. Like there's a difference between purpose and passion. I feel like doing the drums isn't maybe a purpose, it's more of a passion. Maybe the same thing goes for the podcast. Like maybe you don't feel like you have that big of a purpose right now. Maybe not many people are seeing what you're doing, but you still have a passion for doing it. That could be it too. Like maybe we never figure out our purpose and it's just a continual process of just exploring our passions, just doing what we want to do on a day-to-day basis. Like it's not one thing. It doesn't have to be one thing. It doesn't have to be either or. It doesn't be you have to have this thing and then you can't have this. No, it's just like life's abundant. Like you can have both.
We just That's another thing that we take for granted, is that we just I feel as though, people get into maybe a specific job or something for work, and they feel stuck in it, and they're like, this is my only option, right? I think we fail to look outside of the box for almost all areas of our life, and that's kind of what keeps us stuck.
We have to think in a way that is past our current circumstances, because if we always think equal to where we are, we're never going to get to where we want to go.
Right. Going to your point before about, figuring out who the person is that you want to be. What does that person that you want to be, what does he or she think like? What are their thoughts on a daily basis? What are their habits? And so I think those are the keys to then, all right, well, what does their life look like? What are the small actionable steps that I can take today, right now, that in a month from now, in a year from now, I will be that person.
A mindset that I like to live by is like focus on direction, not results. Like if you're focusing on results, a lot of people are going to stop. That's why most people stop with podcasting after a while, is because you're not going to get results immediately. It's a very long term game. Like I'm 160 episodes in and I'm not even close to where I want to be. It's a very long term game, but I'm focused on direction. Like where do I want to be in 10 years from now? Not where do I want to be next week? Younger people, we're always grinding. We have no patience in the world, but you have to be able to gain that, because if you really want to build something big, you can't think in weeks and months. You have to think in years and decades, because that's when you really build something that becomes your purpose.
Yeah, direction is essentially the most important thing, because, a lot of people are going nowhere fast. We keep saying it, but it's essentially just sitting down with yourself and figuring out what you want out of your life, so then you can go from this direction that you're going on that you weren't really thinking about. You're just like, all right, I'll do this job, I'll go down this life path. And then, you're going along, and it's okay that you took a lot of time. It might be years that you took going along that, but the important thing now is that you realize that this isn't what you really want. So then take that little turn, start going this way. You're on episode 160 of your podcast. What keeps you going?
And I'm playing infinite games. Like it's not like what keeps me going. It's like why would I stop?
Right.
It's like I like going into a new podcast and learning from someone, and then also providing value, and then also building my brand. It's like it's not like what keeps me going. It's like why would I stop? That's what I think.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I kind of never really thought about it before, of the types of people that I can meet and the things that I can learn, and
Big. It's big.
what I could change my mind on. And it's like there's so many ideas and so many concepts out there that I haven't explored myself. And the beautiful thing about just a conversation with somebody who knows more about whatever that specific concept is than you is, I could sit here and spend a lot of time reading this 1,000-page book, or I could talk to this person for an hour and learn everything that's in that book.
Yeah, I have I don't know if you knew who Derek Sivers is, but he's a prolific author and someone I've looked up to. You know who Tim Ferriss is by chance?
Yes.
So Derek Sivers is like Tim Ferriss's really close friends. He's had him on the podcast many times. I've always looked up to his work, his mindset, the way that he lives his life. I have him coming on the podcast tomorrow, and it's like you said, I could read all of his books, or I could take an hour of his time, just like dive into everything that's in his brain. That excites me more than anything in the world. So
Right. The big thing for me is, I'm not a part of any specific religion. I kind of, take little concepts from different religions and philosophies and kind of gain my own insight on what I believe happens after I die, and, what I should do in this life and stuff like that. But it's super interesting to, talk to a Catholic missionary or a monk, and then see the way they live their life and take those aspects and be like, oh, I agree with that into my life. Allow people to listen and gain some of the knowledge on that, because somebody could, my podcast isn't huge, but, somebody could stumble along and they could be atheists and not believe God or not believe in anything in life. They could listen to this monk and they could really resonate with what he's saying, be like, oh, I want to try this lifestyle, I want to try to get involved in this. I think the mindset that I've kind of had is, if 100 people see the podcast and 99 of them think it's stupid, but it helps one person, like that's worth it in my eyes.
yeah, it's how it should be for sure. You wouldn't be doing it right now.
Right. I mean, yeah, that's kind of the passion thing. I mean, what inspired you to even start it in the first place?
You ever feel like you're meant for something more? Like
Yes.
you have like an internal pull to like just like do more in the world. I think a lot of people have that same feeling of like, like I want to build something for myself. Like I really want to create a life that like, I wake up to and I'm energized, I'm excited. I am passionate about waking up to do this thing. But a lot of us don't believe it's possible. Whether it's the people that are around us that tell us that it's not possible, or the ingrained beliefs that we grew up with. A lot of it comes down to our beliefs about ourselves and our beliefs about a world that stop us from creating a life that we truly love. My intention with the podcast was to help people unlearn the beliefs to stop them from creating a life that they deserve. Life's more about unlearning than it is learning. Like, we can learn everything that we want, but I think it's the unlearning that really is transformational in the world. And so I take insights. So I do solo episodes that I take insights from what I've learned for working with clients and investing into myself. And then I also bring on people that I'm inspired by that I think have a lot of knowledge that we can learn and dive into their psyche of how they got to where they are. And I think for a lot of people, like I said, it's a lot of unlearning. So my mission was to help people unlearn the beliefs that stop them, start taking action on a life that they really can create, because I've been able to do it myself.
Right. I'm sure you're familiar with the subconscious mind and all the programs that we have. It's becoming a more surface knowledge now, and more people are learning about it. But
You'd think.
you think, yeah, I mean, but it's one of those things where it's essential for you to be on the path to start thriving, because really ever look back at our childhood or these experiences that we had in the past of, oh, maybe this is why I view my parents this way, or this is why I act this way in this situation. It's all this stuff stems from, of course, some stuff is genetic, but so much of your life, the way you think, the way you live your life, is based off on such obviously your past actions and
Hmm.
your daily habits, but even more importantly, sometimes your past experiences that you might not have even been conscious of in the moment. One event could have happened to me when I was 5 years old, and I don't remember it now, but it affects my life today.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't question enough. Like, we just accept truth as fact, right? Like, we accept our beliefs as fact. Like, the world is scarce. Like, success is only designed for a certain amount of people or a certain kind of person. It's like all these beliefs that we have about the world are exactly that. It's a belief. It's not. It's useful, not true. And I think when we're able to break those beliefs down, that really are stopping us. Like, the world is scarce instead of the world is abundant. I can have time and I can have money, or I have to, it has to be either or kind of thing. It's like just unlearning these beliefs that don't serve us, that we probably didn't even think to question. And like you said, like, you think it's more surface level, that like the subconscious mind and how our brain works and all that kind of stuff is normal, but it's probably 1% of the world, maybe. And so in the vicinity of what you're seeing now, because you've been ingrained into it a little bit for probably a year or so, would you say? Like, in the space of self improvement, how long would you say that you've been like in this space?
Probably 3.5, 4 years by now.
Right. So now it seems normal to you. But for
Right.
a lot of people, they don't even know what a belief is. The more that we can bring awareness to that and help people expand their consciousness in the world, I mean, that's why you're doing this podcast. A lot of people aren't even at this kind of thought process in the world. So if we can bring more awareness to it, more people can create something that they couldn't even conceive at first.
Right. It's all those limiting beliefs that hold us back. I'm not worthy of this. I can't do this. It's those little mindset shifts that are able to transform your life. It's like just because so many people are in a depressive state that I was, and like I was the majority of the time saying, "Oh, my life sucks. There's nothing I can do to change it," and that's how most people are feeling.
Hmm.
But if you don't even have to make the mindset shift of, "Oh, I'm gonna choose to be happy tomorrow." It doesn't have to be that big. It literally just has to be that little mindset shift of, it is possible for change. And once you open up your mind just a little bit like that, your possibility from change goes like this to this, and you're like, oh wait, it looks like there's a lot of stuff over here. There we go. All right, and now over time, now your life is better.
Absolutely.
When somebody comes to you with coaching, let's use this example. My life sucks. I'm overweight. I don't have a girlfriend. My friendships suck. My jobs suck. What is the first thing that you talk to them about?
What do you want? Like, if we don't get clear on what, like, for example, like, if you could break down your perfect day, a lot of people don't know what that looks like. Like, if they wake up and they could have a perfect day, whether it's you wake up, you go to the gym in the morning, you hop on some podcasts, you take the rest of the day, go on a walk, hang out with family. But it's getting clear on what you do want, because a lot of people are going towards things. They'll start to lose weight because they believe that that's what they need to do, not because it's good for their body. It's not. It's good for their mind. They want to do it because they don't like what they're seeing. And when people come from a place of shame and not love, it's not going to last. And so I think it's first getting clear on what you specifically want, not what the world tells you need.
That's really powerful. Coming from a place of shame or love, because you can come from that place of, all right, I want to lose weight because I hate myself, or I want to lose weight because I want to be a little bit healthier. I want to feel better in my own skin, right? It's all these little things. It's all
Yeah.
these little things that make all the difference. And I think, yeah, looking at what you're what your perfect day is. That's something that I've realized is, planning out my day is pretty essential because, if I don't plan anything out my day, I kind of like, and maybe at 3 o'clock I'll
Do whatever
feel
you
like
want.
doing this and then end up getting distracted for an hour and a half. Then I'm like, oh, I guess I'll do this now. But it's like, you can't seriously build something or seriously get a lot of stuff done without structuring things out. And I think we kind of have this expectation of, oh, if I'm gonna structure my day out, like it's not gonna be fun. It's not, but it's like, you could structure your day out to, let's say I wake up at 9 a.m. I'm gonna work for the first 4 hours. Then I'm gonna take a 5 hour break. Then I'm gonna do an hour more work. Then I'm free for the rest of the night. I'm gonna do this and hang out with these people or whatever that looks like for you. I definitely used to have this expectation, and I tried to make my life this way. Of all right, I have to wake up. I have to run. After that, I have to eat. Right after that, I have to go to the gym. Then I have to journal, and I have to do all these habits in one day and in one time period. And it's like I got to a point where I was asking myself, like, well, this stuff is supposed to make my life better, but I'm not really enjoying this because I kind of made it a mundane thing. That's kind of one of the like self improvement traps. One of the big things is feeling as though you're never doing enough. That's something that I fell into, and like I need to get these 10 things done today. If I get 9 done, then I'm not good enough, right? But I also found myself, even if I got the 10 things done, I still haven't done enough. What else can I do? And it's that there's no time for to let go of that.
Yeah, something I talk a lot with clients on because a lot of people I work with, they're entrepreneurs or high achievers or people that just want to do more. We always want to do more. We always have an idea where we want to be. I think we need to give ourselves permission more to be, not perfect. At the end of the day, it's really what it is. Because, like you said, you could do 10 out of 10 things and you'll still feel like, man, I could have did more. I could be doing more. I used to define my success as like if I'd stopped work before 7 p.m., like I wasn't doing enough. Like I just wasn't like I wasn't acting enough. Now, like after this, like I'm gonna go get an oil change in my car, take the rest of the day off. Already hopped on a podcast today, already hit the gym, already got some client work done. Like take the rest of the day, do whatever I want.
Right.
Like if I want to work, I'll work. But that's up to me to decide. Like it doesn't have to be like all go or like just I'm falling behind because I don't believe in the mentality that you're either growing or dying. I personally don't believe in that because if you're always growing, you're not a self improvement project, dude. Like that's just the end of it. And I think a lot of people need to hear that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's easy to kind of get sucked into, like we are just talking about, you have to get all these things done and you can't do this. Like, for example, you can't ever play video games, right? And,
Yeah,
when I was younger, I used to be a huge gamer. Like, that's all I did, right? So I think there's a balance to everything, like, right? Unless you're in esports with video games, it's probably not wise for you to play 10 hours a day, right? But that doesn't mean once you start, all right, my life isn't good because I'm only playing video games all day. That means I can't ever play video games a day. Like, no, you could go to the gym and get this new job or start this business and play video games. Set aside an hour or two a day, whatever it is that you have time for. It's like you don't need to completely eradicate these things from your life. It's like I stopped playing video games for a long time, but sometimes when I hang out with my buddies and my girlfriend, like we'll play for an hour or two, and it's like it's fun. I no longer have to play video games and be like, all right, what am I even doing this for? I'm not improving right now, and I can actually go into that space right now and be like, all right, I'm just gonna enjoy the moment right now and just enjoy this for an hour or two.
yeah. Because like I said, you're not a self improvement project, bro. You don't always have to be like trying to be better because you'll never accept yourself for who you actually are. That's for
Right.
sure.
If you come in with that view, it's like you're always trying to be better. And then the end goal would obviously be to be your best self. If you can't accept at all where you are now, you're never going to be that best
Of
self.
course,
And so it's kind of like, self improvement is supposed to, make your life better. But ultimately, you're going to be making your life worse because you're never going to feel good enough no matter how much you do.
absolutely.
Do you think suffering's a bad thing?
I think suffering's a choice for the most part, of course. Like there's stuff that we can't control that like we suffer with like diseases and stuff like that. But I think for the most part, suffering's an unconscious decision for a lot of people. And that's why I said earlier when you said it something about like subconscious mind, like a lot of us we're doing the same things, even if it isn't in our best interest, and we don't know we're doing it. Like we can't break out of that pattern because we just don't have the awareness to break out of the pattern that we get stuck in. I think for the most part, it's an unconscious choice.
I think so much more contentness and just feeling good in general can come from being more conscious of our decisions and the way we think because it's really easy to have one experience in our day that we perceive as negative and just let the negative thoughts take over and just think about that for the rest of the day and let it ruin your day and
Hmm.
instead of catching that negative thought and you'll feel the emotion but being like, all right, I don't need to think about this for the rest of my day. I don't need to let this ruin my day. I got stuff to do. I think the feeling of really suffering and being in that place is it's kind of I know in my past experiences, it's been kind of like an addicting feeling. It's like you don't want to feel bad, But it's like once you're in it, it's kind of like an addiction. You're kind of like, all right, I'm just in it now. It's whatever.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like we get caught in patterns that are is not in our best interest, but even though it's a pattern, that's what we like. We like the comfortability of the same thing, even if it isn't moving us towards where we want to go. That could look like being a workaholic, working all hours of the day. Like I knew that wasn't good for me, but there was some part of me that was like, man, I need to attach myself to this because this is making me feel like I'm worth something. Like if I'm working, I'm making progress, then I have a purpose here. And if I'm not, then what am I doing? And I think for a lot of us, we feel that kind of same thought. But no, it is a cyclical pattern. One book that I'd recommend to everyone, I don't know if you've read it. It's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. It'll help you gain a lot of clarity around like breaking out of that cycle of being yourself, of doing the same things, thinking the same thoughts, taking the same actions, staying stuck in the cycle that isn't serving you, but you're doing it because it's a cycle that you're comfortable with.
Right. When did your mindset shift take place?
Think my mindset really shifted. I was 17. I'd like to say 16, 17. I was becoming a real estate agent. And because that's what I thought was my path, I had 6 stitches and 3 pins in my wrist. And then I tore my labrum. And I was like, well, I'm not playing baseball because that was my entire life was baseball. And I thought, I know I don't want to go to college because I don't want to work a job where I have to trade my time for money. It just didn't make sense to me. And so I was going to become a real estate agent. Started working with a team, was like already before I turned 18, I was the youngest person I'd ever seen at Keller Williams in their existence, and like blown away by me having so much initiative being there. And then a couple weeks before I turned 18, I decided that wasn't for me, and I stepped into coaching and kind of got into this space. But I think in that phase was a big mindset shift for me, where I think for a lot of us, and you'll probably resonate with this, because I struggle with depression and anxiety and a lot of that kind of stuff as well, where you have this belief that life is happening to you, that like all these things, like this bad thing happened and then this bad thing happened and this bad thing happened, it's just piling, life's just piling shit on, and it's just like, man, I can't do it. The shift happened for me when instead of asking me why is this happening to me, I asked how is this happening for me. And so every single day I started to see things throughout my day on how that would support how it was happening for me. It was like I went through all this pain, but it's going to turn into my purpose in the future. I went through all this struggle, but the person that I know that's going through that too, now I can help them with the tools that I got. So that was a big shift for me, was asking a different question, simply that.
I think that little mindset shift of why is this happening to me? How is this happening for me? One thing I realize is that within everything that happens in life, whether I do it or it just kind of happens, it's there's a lesson to be learned in everything. Everything positive that happens to you, but also everything negative that happens to you. And so that negative thing happening might be a consequence of something you did. Maybe it really wasn't. But even if it wasn't, there's something to learn within that of like, all right, why am I feeling this way? What can I change in my life so I don't feel this way? And it's looking from that analytical space instead of just saying, oh well, this is just life. That's the thing. It's like so many of us have this perception of that people can't change and that we can't change ourselves. It's like, all right, well, every time this happens, I feel like shit. And it's like, well, if you sit down and look at your life of, all right, well, why do I feel like shit when someone says this or this happens, right? And it's like, then you can start to ask the right questions and really figure out why you feel that way. And so then you can work to change it. And it's like, we kind of just want to be void of responsibility. And we just kind of, because it's easier. It's easier to just say, all right, my life just sucks. There's nothing I can do. That's easy. But in the long run, it kind of will become easier if you take the initiative to then change your habits and then ultimately change your life, because one day your life will be a lot easier and you won't be sitting here every day thinking, oh, my life sucks. You'll be like, all right, I'm grateful that I took initiative and I'm at the place that I'm at now. And I now have these great relationships and this great relationship with myself. And I succeeded in this area of life. And I'm now following my passion in this area. And it's like, that's life. Like, life isn't you sitting here and just complaining all the time. Life is being able to take the initiative and change your life so that you get to the essentially the real you that's within you, just has been covered up by all this crap. And when you
Yeah,
remove all that, like your point before about, kind of unlearning, once you unlearn and get rid of all that stuff, it's like, wow, there's this great version of me that's underneath here that was already within me.
absolutely. I love that.
James, really appreciate you coming on today.
Grateful to be here, man. I think there's a lot of value that a lot of people can take from it. So I appreciate you having me, brother.
Where can people check you out?
You can check me out on Instagram at James Bracken IV. That's with everything else, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, all those platforms as well. And then the You Can Too podcast is also on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube and Spotify and all the places that you can think of. That's the podcast.
Incredible. All right, we'll catch you guys in the next one.